Welcome to the sim. This wonderful game mode is particularly unique for its friendly fire mechanic. It results in many team kills and confusion. I think this is one of the reasons why many players hesitate to keep playing sim, and therefore here I am, with intentions to cut your learning curve. There are several ways of telling whether that's a teammate or an enemy in front of you. I will start with the basics and continue with it as we progress.
Words cannot express how much I hate Germany right now!
If you use a rangefinder on any tank, the request an ally position text will appear. We won't use it. It's slow. Doesn't work with laser rangefinder. You gotta follow moving targets with your crosshair, it's bad at far distances, etc. Forget about it and instead shoot tracks. Shooting optics, MGs, tracks and gun barrels of machine guns displays a hit camera. Tracks are bigger and easier targets to hit, thus we choose them. Whenever you shoot your teammate there is no hit camera, but that is completely different if you shoot enemies. Even if your shell bounces off of an enemy vehicle, the hit camera appears. So if you hit someone with a main gun and there's no hit cam, you better start apologizing. From all of this, you should remember that if you shoot a track and there is a hit camera, that's an enemy. If you shoot a track and there isn't any, that's a friendly. This works with tires with tracks, and even if you're in a plane. The only situations when you should use a rangefinder are if you're playing a vehicle without an MG or you're an AA vehicle. Also, if the vision of the tank is obstructed and you don't want to risk shooting a track. You can still shoot tracks for the hit camera AA, but make sure not to break them. I've mentioned the far distances and fairly can't hit tracks at high ranges. For this, you'll have to use something unavailable for most War Thunder players. Logic. Is this a familiar shape? Is this the beginning of the battle? Can my teammate be there already? Is his turret pointing at me? Is the tank hull pointed towards us? Where is it shooting? If you're still alive and you answered these questions, you're fine. If you didn't, the only way to tell is to place a squad mark, link on the map to place a mark for your team to see, and hope that the guy replies with Other than that, I'd say shoot and enjoy the kill or learn a lesson through shame and mistakes.
Он тупой, его не видит просто.
One day you will have to answer for your actions, and God may not be so merciful.
If you haven't been paying attention to which points are kept, what space your team controls, and you're a big silly, there is no other way of identifying a faraway tank. Speaking of logic, it is a useful tool that you can use all the time. Since Godzin has made Sim a war of clones, you should be aware of the same vehicles fighting for both Axis and allies. I will speak about them a bit later. A very important concept to get used to is to communicate with your team. If you hear an engine behind the wall and you're not sure who's that, mark it. More skilled players will reply to you with radio commands, and use the T42 combination, which is a request for backup. Don't spam follow me, because if there's a fuss and someone's marking an enemy and you've marked yourself with the same exclamation mark, you won't help anyone. If you want to call for an actual backup, mark yourself with a shield and an enemy with an exclamation mark. Of course, sometimes some people won't reply to your calls, but no one's stopping you from uploading an 11-minute video on a 10 subscribers channel teaching them why they should pay attention to their surroundings. Some players go further and message in chat about their vehicle and how to identify them. You should pay attention to this, as I can't see any excuses for killing these people later. If you genuinely think fratricide in this case is not the killer's fault, you might as well go play other game modes. Except if you're playing Axis and M24 in your team looks something like this. The last tricks that might help you are to watch whether the point is being kept or decapped and where is your team when you respawn. There is a small period of time at which allied tanks are marked on the map shortly after you spawn. Use it to know where to expect your enemy. Now let's talk about planes. In EC, a name of your teammate appears above the plane on a 1 km range and less. Meanwhile, enemies aren't marked anyhow, but this isn't relevant for ground sim. In it, there are no markers on planes at all. The only and the best tip for how to tell if this is an enemy plane or not is to check the tab and the map. Despite the names of the teammates aren't displayed, the marker on the map is shown whenever the friendly plane flies near. That works for both ground and air vehicles. Usually, there aren't many planes compared to tanks, thus check the tab to see if there aren't any planes in the team. Pay attention to their shape. This works especially well if you're an experienced pilot, and how many engines they have. Being sober and looking at the kill feed applies here too. If you're playing AE, you might as well check the insignias. Some players may fake them, but if you're not sure, remember, the good old tab will never lie. As I promised, the clones. It isn't crucial to be able to tell whether that's a German or American Bf-109, because you can check the tab and double check the map if you're not sure, although knowing the difference between tanks is important. You can tell the difference from its standard camo and wavy winter camo. German 4 doesn't have a track on the frontal plate. It has a grey camo and German markings on the turret. Its default and marketplace camos are very distinctive. Winter camo is the most confusing, but you can recognize the tank by its commander hatch. People usually put some decorators or bushes on top. Commander's hatch and camo. Just the camo. Decals on the turret. It just doesn't look right. Green camo and decals. Camo and decals on the turret, there is no side skirts. Standard camouflage is a little distinctive. M24 has a green camo that'll cover this issue by lowering its condition. Usually people put decals and bushes to blend it, same as M24. Look at the crew, I'm not racist. Crew and camo. Camo. It can be well hidden, so check the tab for China. Gunner and camo. Just the crew. No explosive reactive armor. Just the camo. And they don't look alike, but please remember that Centaur has 8 wheels and Chinese have 6. Decals on the front and side. Players usually put something there and try to confuse you with American flags. Same as M24. Muzzle brake and hulls are a bit different. Barrels are different. It is a unique vehicle in the game and you should just remember how it looks. It has no skirt and there's a French insignia on the turret side as well as dolphin on the hull. Everyone's putting bushes and decals to hide these. Memorizing the difference, dying from these vehicles once or twice, and checking the tab each battle to see against whom you're playing will make you familiar with all the clones in no time. Alright, the theoretical part is over, now it's time to test your knowledge in action. Imagine you're going through a narrow crotch. You see unfamiliar shape. What will you do?
You search for